AI should come first, because AI will have the answer for all of our problems. And if we are not feeding AI with the water, then AI will half-baked life, even though it can look great on the surface, when you're hollow inside and there's this emptiness, because ultimately it comes back to this feeling of I'm not enough.
What do you feel like is the most beautiful possibility we could step into right now?
From outside, this idea that if I'm loved by someone else, then I'll feel better about myself. And actually there is this wellspring of...
What would you say to someone who is navigating that fear of vulnerability, that fear of exposure right now?
I know this from my own experience. You know, when I did the work on my own vulnerability, it's like an abyss. I see people who refuse to cry in front of anyone, and what will you do?
What does the soul mean to you?
The answer is...
There are books and then there are books. And this book dropped me so deeply into my heart, into my inner child, into my shadows, into my ancestry. And I felt there was such a generosity and a gorgeousness to the metaphors and the way that you intentionally made the ideas so resonant. And so I'm so excited and honored to welcome Estelle Bingham to the Soul Salon podcast, the author of Manifest Your True Essence, a holistic healer, therapist, coach, and someone who is here to really drop us into our hearts, okay? I'm so proud and honored to welcome you, Estelle, to the Soul Salon. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you so much for having me and for that really beautiful introduction. I'm really honored to be here.
You are so welcome. I feel so honored to be in your energy and presence. And the first question that I would be honored to ask you is, what does the soul mean to you?
The soul, you know, we've thought about this, haven't we, for millennia, really. And more recently, I feel like we sort of lose touch with what that means in the day-to-day. But for me, the soul is something that lives on. So it's a part of us that goes beyond the lifetime, that lives beyond the lifetime, and really encompasses our true essence. It's like who we are before all of the stories, before the lifetime told us who we should be or who we couldn't be. And it's that really original state of being. It's that original divine spark part of us.
Ooh. Melted into your words there. Oh, that eternal, that original part of us, the part beyond stories. And you really take us there so powerfully in this book. I'm so curious with what you've just shared. Many people hold different beliefs around what our sole purpose is on this earth. Why have we come to this earth? And I'm just so curious how you make sense of that.
Yeah, I mean, when you say that today, I feel particularly it's so potent because every day is changing. You know, we are souls on the planet that have really chosen to be here in this lifetime, in this incarnation. And, you know, a lot of the audience would have heard that before. But what does it really mean when temperatures rise and oceans are poisoned and animals die and, you know, trees get cut down and we are up against wars and separation and division and the politics of a humanity in collapse with that backdrop of AI, you know, and all of these things. Where does the soul really feature? For me, it's, you know, we can't lose sight of what it means. We can't lose sight of what it is because it helps us remember who, you know, what it means to be human. And as souls, we've chosen this lifetime. Part of our life lesson here is to remember what it means to be human in such a big way, more than any other souls that have ever been born on the planet. We are up against that. So our souls are warriors, you know, in essence, we are here for, we're here for it. And so this time, really, what do we do? What is our soul purpose? You know, the first and foremostly, with a world in collapse, you know, what happens when we're collapsing on so many levels? We have to awaken, we have to awaken now, out of our slump, out of our sleep, the eternal sleep, and, become everything that we were meant to in this moment. So because when we do that, we become a channel for divine energy. So, and that's all we're remembering, is we're just allowing ourselves to be channels for divine energy. And in this time, because it's about frequency, when we are just allowing the light, we're getting out of the way of ourselves, which is why we have to do that inner work to just believe and trust that we're enough, that source, that spirit, that God has chosen us, that we are enough to channel that energy, because now is the time. So purpose, I think, for a collective, our collective is to wake up to the frequency of the light within. And we can get there when we go through the heart and we step into our hearts. We can really access the oceans of infinite light and love, the divine energy that exists in the universe right here, right now. So that is as a collective. And then personally, our purpose can change. Sometimes people say to me, I've had a child and I can't do the things that I was doing. I haven't got time to meditate or do yoga or wellness practices, but prayer is in the way that we love. And so, your purpose in that moment is not, you don't have to have a necessarily think about, I'm missing out on my big career or this or that opportunity. It's actually to stay present with what you have, this, whether it's a child or whatever that project is, or that I was talking about a child, it's that gift, really, that blessing, is to just stay present to that. And that can be the purpose for the day. So the purpose can change. So it's like a sort of daily purpose, what is actually in our lives right now. It may be something that you're looking to manifest more on a bigger scale, in terms of personally, but then collectively, as a collective, we're really being asked to wake up to our purpose as a collective.
Wow, there was so much there, so much richness. I almost feel like, when you're at a bakery and there's so many pastries and you're like, ooh, which one will I have? There's so much. Thank you so much for taking us to the collective level first, around our soul specifically having such a big sort of mission that has been placed on our hearts to remember who we are in a time of collapse. I also adore that there's a lot of spiritual teachers who don't address sort of the times that we're in and the structures and the systems of collapse that are surrounding us and what we're being asked to do in the face of that. So I really admire the courage that it takes to name these things and to be heart-led leaders of the world that we could become. So thank you for that. And then this personal purpose and the evolution that you're allowing and inviting, I've also felt that sense of fixedness in purpose. So thank you for allowing us to release that pressure and say we do get to evolve, we do get to stay present with that feeling of purpose. In what you've just walked us through with the soul, with remembrance, with awakening, what do you feel is maybe the greatest collective limiting belief holding us back from truly accessing the soul?
Always, I do a meditation once a month. I do a full moon meditation. I started many years ago. I used to do it in person and now I do it online. And often, the first layer, the invitation is to just sort of clear the first layer. And really what we're working through in the first instance is just the basic belief that we're not enough. And I hear that inside out, upside down. I have a private practice. I run retreats. I do, I run workshops and all sorts of different, facilitate all that type of healing on a broader level. And that is always, we come back to that. Sort of humanity comes back to that. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what background you have, what country you come from, what religion, what creed, what color. It's like there is, and obviously that's nuanced too, right? Because all histories are very specific histories, and to honor that. But ultimately there's this feeling of, I'm not enough. I'm not lovable. I'm not enough. And from that very basic place, so much goes awry, so much goes left field, because the choices that we make when we have a deep belief system, and it's often so, it can be really hidden in the shadow in different ways. So consciously you're like, I'm doing really well. I'll see people who run businesses, great businesses, that are Fortune 500, that, from have been entrepreneurial, have been, really powerful in their business lives. But when it comes to relationship or actually just being able to receive love, when it comes to being seen truly, in true vulnerability, it's like an abyss. And so ultimately the lifetime is about the balance. We are here to do everything. It's whatever your soul's choosing, for you to do. Like, what are the lessons we need from the kind of earth, the university of life? What do we need to learn? And so this half-baked life, even though it can look great on the surface, when you're hollow inside and there's this emptiness, because ultimately it comes back to this feeling of I'm not enough, is the one that it's the big haunting of our psyches.
The big haunting of our psyches. That is such a powerful way. It's exactly what that is. And that is so at the root of everything. Thank you for the way you named that, with not feeling good enough. And sometimes we can dream of, for example, for me, this podcast, the last interview I did, all the voice in my head was saying is, you're not interviewing good enough. You're not listening well enough. And so it's like this important remembrance that this inner work is so critical. And so when you see this belief of shame in so many of your clients, how do you help them drop into their heart, drop into love?
Well, we think that love is something outside of ourselves, and we've been, that's an illusion. This idea that if I'm loved by someone else, or if I go and do really well, and I'm confirmed and affirmed from outside, then I'll feel better about myself. And actually, there is this wellspring of love inside of us, and that is literally what it is. So often in my first sessions, what happens is when people have done a lot of talking therapy and they come to a session and we drop into the heart, then they get to feel themselves in a different way, because they get a glimpse of this, this energy that's inside them, that they are part of something so much more, which is source energy, which is this vibration of light and ultimately love, because love is held as an emotion in the heart, but it's not a sort of a human heart, if that makes sense. It's a mystic heart. It's our spiritual heart. So I really work to bring people into their hearts through a really short meditation. And that's really where we start. We start from that place, because when we start from the heart and you heal from here, from this place, the work is backed up by the universe. So it's backed up by all of that energy that is spiritual, that interdimensional energy, the oceans and oceans of energy that are looking to support you right now, today. There is nothing between you and that energy but yourself. And so often, we can think about spiritual teachers, we can think about elders in our community who do hold wisdom, and they do hold really important wisdom, and they teach, and that's very, very important. And we can also see how through the millennia, religion has been twisted to separate people just from the basic understanding that they are enough, and that God is here, and that's really something to think about, because that's really what I teach. So the heart is, and you talked about with the book, is that the book is, I am companioning you to companion yourself, to then companion others, who will then companion others. Because ultimately we're here for a very short amount of time. And as in the words of Ram Dass, he says, we're here, we're just walking each other home. That's what it's about. So I bring people into their hearts, because it's a superpower, and it opens something in them that they didn't really know was there. So you kind of like step into something, and then we do the work from that place. So then we do the inner child work, we do the shadow work, we do the ancestral work, and the shame and the forgiveness. And we are concurrently deepening this understanding that God is here. So it walks alongside you. And really, ultimately, there's nothing that can corrupt that, because it just is. So that is what happens. You open the space for God, and God says, "Here I am." It's the old metaphor or the old adage we've heard of, I take one step towards God and source energy, spirit, and spirit takes 10 towards you, because we are in a dimension of free will. And this isn't an angelic dimension, it's a dimension of free will. So we step outside every day, and we as human beings get the opportunity to do something good or do something not so good, right? We make that decision, and that's a gift. So, when we decide to create space or do something good, or honor, ourselves, but also honor the divine in us and the creator of all things, then we give energy to that. So in an angelic dimension, there is no free will, because the angels are, they are really, they work as intermediaries between us and God, and they go where they're asked to go. But we get to ask angels to come and stand by our side.
We get to ask angels to come stand by our side. What you said about a dimension of free will versus living in an angelic dimension, I've never thought about it like that. That's so wonderful to hear you say this. And then what you said earlier, that so many things you're saying, I just wish I could be taking notes, but I will be. But you said that religions have existed to separate us from the idea that we're enough. That's such a paradigm shift, because it's so paradoxical. And creating that distance and that separation and that set of conditions under which you are worthy enough is just so powerful. And I think a lot of people will really resonate with that. And then what you shared about connecting people to a power that they did not even know they had. I think that is just so powerful. An inner light, you write about an inner sun. We'd love to know what these in this book, please do purchase it, because there's so many divine meditations that are heart-led and drop you directly into the heart. But I'm so curious, when you're saying like you're helping people drop into their hearts, what does that look like?
Yeah, so we can do that right now.
Okay, I would love that.
Okay, so let's do that.
Perfect.
So
incredible.
Feet on the ground.
Feet on the ground.
Yeah, okay. And we're just bringing the awareness. So wherever you are, you can do this with us, bringing the awareness to the breath. So first and foremost is to the breath. And I'm just going to invite you actually just to watch me for a few moments, because this is so important how we breathe.
Of course.
So breathing in through the nose, take a nice deep breath. And then out through the mouth. Okay, so can you see how you're blowing that exhalation? Okay, so we are going to sigh the exhalation. So if you bring a hand to the heart, you can take one just into the stomach area. So breathing that energy in. And then, there we go. So that sigh, that's a really deep sigh. So we're starting to connect with the emotional body. So really showing up for the nervous system with that deep sigh, each time deeper and slower. So breathing in and letting it go. And we're going to do this a few times. So we're doing it a few times together. Breathing in, you can close your eyes now. That deep breath in, and we've got the hand on the stomach just to get that deep exhale. Lovely. And a few more, and you're finding your own rhythm. This is like a wave of breath. So you can imagine that wave of energy. You're standing at the edge of your own ocean. And really taking your time with yourself. We have time. Remember, time is an illusion. So making these breaths really count, this inhale and this exhale, as the nervous system is really informed in this moment to move into a rest and digest state of calm, which then lowers all the inflammation in the body, brings us into more of a meditative state, just with the breath. And on the next inhalation, exhalation, bringing both hands now to the heart as we bring full awareness to the heart. And we're inhaling and exhaling into the heart, breathing that deep inhale, that breath of life that separates us from death in this moment. Very powerful. Bringing that into the heart space. And dropping the shoulders and all the energy in the body. Really giving permission for the physical body to rest. As we bring our awareness into the heart. We can work with divine light energy on the next inhale, exhale. You can just imagine that that's pouring through the crown. Doesn't matter where you are, we're just bringing that in. From the space above the space, up into the sky, bringing that through like you're sitting underneath a waterfall of light. Filling the spaces in between the spaces. To the eyes, the nose, the ears, taking this opportunity to really fill the system with light. It's enough to just imagine it. Liquid light right here, right now. Into the jaw, into the neck, like liquid into the throat chakra, noticing here if there's any spoken or unspoken words. And then into the shoulders, filling the biceps, the elbows, the forearms, the hands. And really just turning like a tap of energy into the heart, into the chalice of the heart, into this cup of the heart. Filling this cup with light in the heart. In this moment, more light than you could possibly ever imagine, giving yourself permission to draw in that light from this oceans and oceans of infinite light that exist right here, right now in the universe. All the times you haven't felt like you're enough, times you've been shamed for who you are, times you haven't been seen, for where you feel fear. Bringing that light in right here, right now. More light than you could possibly imagine. So it's spilling to the rest of the system, to the upper intestine, the lower intestine, to the spleen and the bladder, to the kidneys and the liver, to the root chakra, into the womb area, into the sexual organs, into the thighs, the knees, the calves, and into the feet. Grounding through the feet into the earth, wherever you are. And then taking your awareness back to the heart. We're just asking the heart what it's holding in this moment, what it needs. Listening to the heart, giving permission. Take a nice deep inhale, exhale, and then you're gently opening the eyes.
Oh. That was magnificent. Wow. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome.
You really feel this opening and that feeling of not feeling good enough. And then I love what you said about more light than you ever thought you could hold. It's so stunning. And just like this, entering this different realm. Like I'm here, but I'm not here.
And then in this moment, we become attuned. You know, this is what heart coherence is too. So heart coherence is the balance, is opening the heart. And then the heart becomes coherent. And then the messages it sends to the mind. So then the mind can make more the decisions and choices we make are more led by the heart. And that's the science.
Mm.
So a few moments every day is all you need to bring yourself into a heart coherent state, just for the heart coherence. And then for the heart healing, and, moving more into the sort of process, then you kind of can step into the heart and do all of these other things. But just for that heart coherence, just for the nervous system to really calm all of the anxiety, all of the fears, just bringing yourself into this place really brings a different vibration into your life.
Wow. And we have so many artists and people who are in touch with their creativity, listening and watching this, experiencing this conversation. And I feel like if we get to create art from this place where we're more grounded, more attuned to each other, to ourselves, can you take us into this heart wisdom and how it first came to you? You were saying these things far before they were popular to say. And so really understanding the shoulders that we stand on. I'm so curious. Your journey into this divine wisdom and the way you channel it. It's so beautiful.
Oh, well, yeah, wow. I suppose my story began with my growing up in London with my mother as a single parent family. And I learned to meditate when I was very young. So I learned to meditate when I was sort of 7, 8 years old. I learned transcendental meditation. But at the same time, I also had I kind of was on a real path to, to seek and to find more, discover more about all sorts of things. And so I went to church, spent a lot of time in church, but I was also meditating, and I wrote poetry, often to make sense of the world. But really, I feel like, when the heart has an interesting way of showing up in our lives. Often we can be empaths. A lot of people are empathic, and that means that they've sort of come into the lifetime naturally with an open heart, and then life can be quite difficult to navigate. But also, depending on your what the kind of background was like growing up, we also can become very hypervigilant. So if there is sort of trauma in our worlds, then we become aware and actually quite empathic because we're picking up on energies and that's sort of like also a felt sense thing. So I think there was a kind of culmination of all of these pieces of the sort of seeking. So my life that had sort of meditation on one side, but then also trauma woven into that, and sort of intergenerational trauma, and my sort of and how my spirit responded to that. And so there was a long time I didn't want to do any of this work, but I could always feel my hands. So when my mother was really young, I could, I would sort of work on it. She had a headache, and I could sort of move the energy. I could feel the energy of the headache, and I could move the energy out of her system. So I had an understanding of some of these things. I spent a lot of time in nature, and the kind of the layers, I suppose, what's behind the veil, and not living in a 3D universe, but living in a multidimensional universe. So I was always kind of in that, and that is what is heart. Heart is when nature is heart. So when we spend time in nature, we're open to nature. We listen to the trees. We walk the ground. We listen to the bird songs. We are engaging with this divine matrix. And so that is all heart-led. And that teaches you, that's where, heart brings you into its own wisdom. It brings you its wisdom. So when I started working with people, for me, this divine feminine energy, which is also was part of my spiritual journey, was finding the mother beyond the mother. And I speak about that, where the good ancestor, because, if you've had a tricky time on either side, and where the good ancestors are. But you can go into your lines and you can find those ancestors. But also beyond that is a sort of the beginning of all things, and the divine feminine is a face of the divine. So the divine feminine, divine masculine, those two, that polarity is just one and the same. But the divine feminine energy is an energy that moves through the heart, and also as we understand Mother Earth. So that really just spoke to me, it speaks, that I'm guided by that energy. I just trust that energy. I just listen. And I feel really blessed for that, the listening, because sometimes I think about how, and people who know me, people who work with me know how much I go with the flow, because I just do go with the flow because I do trust, and I trust my people, and I trust the way of the heart. I trust this path. I trust this journey, and I'm deeply grateful for it. So it's unfolded and is unfolding.
Well, we thank you for listening to the divine feminine within you, because it's allowed us to listen to our own through you as a channel for this wisdom, and the way that you bring it to life is so potent, and you can feel the medicine moving through you. And I love that you had this early exposure to spirit, to magic. And I'm curious as well, you mentioned that even on this journey, you didn't want to do this work. So can you share more about the resistance you had, if you feel called to share?
Yeah. I mean, I think that we are, it's so complex. And I think when you go into a spiritual life, I think it's also complex. We're bombarded by what magic, what is, the idea of magic, even talking about magic, that is bad. And that is in our conditioning. So it's in our conditioning wherever you are, right? And because there is magic that isn't great. And that's a reality. So when we think about, when we drop into these, realms, you have to be really aware of what you're working with, and you really working with spirit, to be working with God, right? So because I knew when I was sort of 18, 19, 20, I was like, there's no way I want to be at a dinner party talking about I'm psychic, or I can feel this or see that, or it's the last thing I want to do, because it's, that we have these connotations about what that is. And some of it's fair, right? So it's a complex place. It's like when we talk about religion, it's controversial and it's complex, because religion is amazing. It's like, it's culturally amazing, and it holds societies together, and it's a beautiful thing. And then it can also get used in that separation, literally just separating us from our divinity. And it's the same with magic. And I think it's the same. When we think about how we use our energy, and when we start to awaken, where your heart is really, like, you have to be in a state of humility. Humility is ultimately the thing that will keep you being of service, because otherwise we can get really, like, we can get taken off and away. And so this is where I want to be of service. I'm going to stay in this flow. I just pray for that. I pray for that every day. Wow. And really that's the thing that keeps you grounded. So when I was younger, I was thinking, I just don't want to have to explain myself, defend myself, talk about this. So I wanted to do something completely different, and I became a TV presenter.
Oh, wow.
Because I just thought, this is not for me. And then you recognize that, it's all, life is short, and our gifts, what are our gifts? What are the things that are on that kind of, before you came into the lifetime and you chose the lifetime, you were like, had a discussion and said, okay, I'm going to go down and do a bit of this, I'll do a bit of that, and okay, but I want to do some of that. But really, this is my soul wants to feel this, and I really feel that this is something I'm choosing, that this moves through me. And so then you get out of the way of yourself, and that's what I ended up doing. Yeah.
So we can all deeply resonate with that feeling of being in a role that we know isn't our full soul's purpose. So for anyone listening to this who maybe is in that place where they are the TV presenter version of their life, they are feeling called to do something else, but it feels sticky, resistant. What would you say to them in this moment?
Well, this is the moment. I'd say take this as your sign. You're listening to this podcast, you're listening to this conversation. Let this be the moment, because the moment is just now. It's whenever you want it to be. And we can choose right here, right now, for it to be this moment is enough. And really, also, life needs you now. We are being called upon to rise. And without that, we are, on shaky ground. Humanity's kind of really up against it. So whatever that looks like, getting out of the way of yourself and being that light, because you bring that light, in whatever way you bring that light, is so important for the rest of us. I need to feel you. I want to feel you, right? We get to feel each other. If you imagine switching on, all of these different, these like flames around the world, and we can feel so alone. And often that sticky thing that you're talking about of what will it look like, or people are going to, they're going to shame me, or I don't feel like I belong anyway, so it's going to make me feel even more, different. But actually, you're really supported, because when the life is done, and we go back to source, and the life is done, and our souls move through out of the body. We look back and we sort of, it's that thing of, oh wow, that's what it was all about. Right? That's what it was all about. Even to treat it as a game, as a holy game, because it's holy, but really to not get into the minutiae of, it's so painful to be white knuckling. It's so painful to hold on, and the letting go. Just trying that, seeing what happens, staying curious, listening to the heart. And that's the thing about, how do you know? It's listen to what your heart is saying.
Life needs you now. Listen to what your heart is saying. We have all this wisdom within us. It's so powerful. I adore the language you use about, what was the oceans of light?
Infinite light.
Infinite light. Oceans of infinite light. That really stuck with me reading your book and listening to you say that now. It's just so, I love what you said, that we're all being called to rise, and what you said about the lights. And I just had this instant image of all these torches and how we do need all of them as lit up as they feel called to be. And just as you wrote this book, and it deeply spoke to, and so many people, spoke to myself and so many others, that the world would have less light if you weren't stepping into yours. And so we all need each other's light. It's such a wonderful perspective, and something that I really resonate with. And what you said about Ram Dass, and we all walk each other home. It's a quote that I also love. So I'm feeling the resonance and the adoration there. When you said that we're all so supported, that's something so beautiful to tap into. And you have this wonderful concept in your book called the family in the light. Could you tell us about what support looks like and feels like to you?
For sure. I'm going to ask you this. What does it look like for you?
Ooh. What does it look like to feel supported? Or what does it look like
in the light?
In the light. In the light. I feel like it looks like divine inspiration, as an artist, and even stepping into that identity, that feeling that something always wants to be channeled through me. It could be a song, it could be a moment, it could be a question, it could be a moment of grace. So it looks like the feeling that there's like this infinite wellspring, you use that beautiful word, that's always seeking to give me love and give me ideas and give me this juicy little exciting energy that my inner child loves, of like, ooh. And then it also looks like feeling into the love of my family. I'm very fortunate to say that I experienced a lot of love from both of my parents, and that I know that the love they gave me is also ancestral. Somehow there was love in our lineage that I can feel as a superpower that we have. And that really feels like my family in the light as well. And then trying to connect more with people who've come before me and sort of heal some of the the blocks of the loss, with the cultural loss, language loss that I'm trying to reclaim, to say that they still love me, even if I don't speak, their languages, even if I'm trying to find my way home to them. It doesn't disqualify me from their love. Their love is beyond language. It's infinite. And actually, a guest on this show, I can't remember who, taught me that. Oh, Snow Bushle Maposa. Yeah, she taught me that. That, their love is beyond you being able to do anything. They just love you. So I think that is what it feels like to me. And then also just visions. I get visions all the time. So that feeling of just a new vision, a visual plane of dimension of reality that I feel I've always felt connected to. So thank you for that question. That's very beautiful.
But as an artist, and really the third part of the book, which is about the return and what happens when we move through these layers or levels of the heart. So first of all, we feel into the physical heart, which is the breath and the power of the breath that separates us from death. So, that's why breath work is so powerful, all of those systems. But then we get to the emotional heart, which is how the heart holds our stories and our grief and our sadness, our heartbreaks. And that's what we get to alchemize and shift and change. And then we drop into that mystic spiritual heart, and then we're a channel. So that feeling, so the downloads, and so many artists speak about that, that comes through this. It's a soul energy. They're downloaded, and we sort of then they transfer to the mind, where they really come through. This is how we access those planes, and it's sort of the ether, and things exist in the ether, and whoever's open to the channel will get the download. And sometimes it can be a few people at once, but a few people can be channeling the same thing. And that's happened to me with books,
Really?
Yeah, 100%. There was a book that I just saw recently that's come out, and I was thinking about that book 2 years ago. So now I'm thinking I'm definitely going to write the book that I need to write, because you have to be available for it. Like the universe nudges, right? It says, will you do this? And then if you get in the way and you do that thing of like, I'm going to procrastinate, I need to wait till I need to start tomorrow. They've just said that this podcast is the sign, but actually I'm going to have a cup of tea and do something else. Let this be the moment that you take that first step. Procrastination is a fear piece. It's about, it comes back to that piece around I'm not enough, and I'm afraid of failure. I'm afraid of success. It's the two things, the things that we fear of just being seen. So the support for me is that family in the light that I talk about, and the family in the light are the ancestors you've just spoken about so beautifully, and that idea of we're enough always. The shame that we hold about ourselves is our shame. When you're in spirit, there is that stuff doesn't exist. There's the idea of personality. It doesn't exist in that way. It's love. So, and the ultimate support for you to evolve, because when you evolve, the whole line evolves with you, right? So it's a healing that happens, and that's when we think about pattern breakers. You are the pattern breaker, and you've come in to do certain things, or go back and heal certain parts and pieces, or live in a certain way that they weren't able to, or feel things that they weren't able to feel. So the ancestors are massive, and also guides can come in as people that you haven't known too. But we all have an angel as well. There's always an angelic that is, sort of assigned to us really at birth. That is just there for us to, we get to. It's like having a telephone line, to the angelic realms, because often people feel that they can't call on the big archangels, or they can't call on, because why would Archangel Michael want to come and visit me? And I have to explain that that it's multi-fractal, like it doesn't, it's Archangel Michael isn't just coming to you. There's a million, because that's how the energy works. It doesn't work for one person at one time. It's like multi-dimensional. So it's very fractal. in the sense that an angelic can be in many places at once.
Wow, I've never thought about it that way. Okay, fractal. Can you explain to anyone who's not familiar with that structure, what that means?
Yeah, so if you just imagine the way that we perceive time and space is limited to our human condition, and it doesn't exist. So when we leave this sort of, three-dimensional, then we understand that things can exist in multi-dimensions at the same time. And angelic energy, divine energy, is beyond really our comprehension. It's beyond our comprehension. So the idea that this, the intermediaries, if you think about angelics as intermediaries, that they can only do one thing at a time, okay, is, if you even think about it, is quite ridiculous. Oh, I'm just going to go and visit now, John in Southampton because he's asked, it doesn't work like that. So it works, you can just imagine like a web of energy. And that is also what they're there for. They're there to assist and support us in the things that we need. To whatever our prayers, they are there for us. That is 100% part of the story, if you believe in angels.
How do we know that we are blocking the love that an angel wants to give to us, or that there's someone who's reaching for us that we're not being open to?
Yeah, so you can imagine the ancestors are the same, right? So the ancestors are looking to support us in, and love us. And if you feel in any way, if there's any part of the psyche that says, I'm not enough, or I'm not really ready, I don't speak the language, who am I to ask? Why would they show up for me? This doesn't really work, I don't know. Like, one of the things to do is just press pause on the voices.
Wow.
Because those voices they are a construct of the lifetime. They are not part of your soul energy. They're a construct of the lifetime. So all of those voices that separate us come through the way that we've been brought up, our education, society, culture, all of those things. So just press pause and stay curious.
Press pause and stay, oh my word, construct of the lifetime versus soul energy. That is so powerful. So when we're caught in a story, we can think, okay, this is a construct of this lifetime.
Yes.
But there's a more broad, wider, more spacious, eternal soul available.
Absolutely.
Ooh. And you write about higher self, soul energy. This is one of those questions maybe that's coming from the mind, but how do we know that we're in touch with that? And if we feel disconnected from it, how can we reconnect?
Yeah, it's so interesting because I was talking to a client about this difference and how free she's feeling. The peace that comes when you listen, when this inner voice, you start to listen to this inner voice, it kicks in and starts showing up more and more. And there's a difference, because there is a difference. So we can hear voice, like we can hear something say, oh, he's really not, oh, he's my soulmate, he's my soulmate, he's my soulmate. And I'm so in love with him and I won't be in love with anyone ever again. That person is the person. And it's coming from actually your wounded ego. It's coming from your emotional heart, but it's not coming from the higher self. The higher self energy, that it's like it's a voice inside that in the stillness, it's so knowing and really clear. And it is that little nudge, like often, when I talk about relationships, I'm like, what about the red flag? And they'll say, yes, there was one. And I just didn't listen to it. There was something, I just chose not to listen to it. And so it's there. We've just got to notice and start noticing where these parts are coming from, right? There's that inner voice, and it becomes stronger and stronger, and it is your true essence. And it's connected to all of the people around you and to source. So you get really guided. So flow is good. So you're in the flow of the universe. The universe can really show up for you. It really does have your back. Versus the kind of other ones, okay? And when we know ourselves, know thyself, the reason why it's so important It's above the, in Delphi, in Greece, it's an ancient Greek saying, know thyself. It's so important because then you can master everything that's happening inside the mind and let the heart speak. Right? Let the soul speak. So all of the jumbly, there might be a trigger, your 4-year-old self saying, oh, I'm really frightened of getting on the plane. What if I get to London and there's no one there? It doesn't work. Or what if this happens or that happens? And we get to see, we get to know ourselves, and we get to recognize that part, the inner child who is maybe afraid of doing something because when she did it when she was 4, it didn't work out. And then we get to hear that voice beyond the chatter that says, we're getting on the plane.
Yes. We're getting on the plane. So much that you're sharing, oh my word. Something that's coming through to me is the embodied. I love how your work is so much about embodying this wisdom and feeling this wisdom. So if you do have that 4-year-old and you have her voice speaking to you, how do you shift from like knowing intellectually? For example, let me give you an example. So I've always struggled or danced with envy and comparison, or like feeling this competitive energy that I'm not proud of. Like I do believe, or I want to believe, there's room for all of us and we live in an infinite room of light, and it's not you or me, but of course it must be in my lineage. And then also being a Black person in white spaces, there's scarcity and all these things. So I'm curious then, I know it intellectually, but I'm not like living the truth that I am enough, or living the truth that there's room for all of us to thrive and to blossom. And then that voice of fear gets triggered, that voice of scarcity gets triggered. So how do you help people shift from, oh, like, yeah, I know that, to like, I feel that in my bones?
So it takes a bit of time, right? It takes time. There isn't a quick fix to that. It takes compassion and growing that compassion, growing that, companioning self, which is why we work with the heart, because the heart is that infinite source. So you are doing your healing work, or returning to self, and meeting these parts and re-meeting these parts and meeting them again with love and kindness and compassion. And so that's how there's an alchemizing that happens. That's what the shift is. That's what that's why I wrote that book, because I wanted to step people through a process, rather than doing it with me. You can do it it's accessible, it's not expensive, and it's all in there. I wanted to leave something that people could get to and really feel parts of themselves and meet parts of themselves and heal parts of themselves for this deep transformation. And the transformation does happen. It works. People go from feeling all sorts of feelings, and that envy is a big one. The idea of scarcity and envy, we can turn envy into a real positive. Actually, it's a very powerful energy, but very powerful to notice, to recognize, and to out, like you've done, to bring that into the light, because it's in your shadow. So the people that you envy, will hold something that you have inside you, and it's about giving yourself permission to just stay in that, to stay in the healing, really, to stay or the trust that the alchemy happens. It just shifts. It's day by day. You just let go. It's like we surrender. It's like white knuckling. If I'm so jealous of that person, like, how are they there and I'm not there? There's not going to be any room. Or what if it runs out? Or da da da. And actually, what happens is this other dialogue, this other communication begins every day, and it's just more interesting.
It's just more interesting.
It's just more interesting. And this is just a bit boring. And that's what happens. You become more interested in yourself, more in love with yourself, more loving of self. I'm here to shine the light. I'm going to do me, right? And that's, we can get bombarded online by so many things, and people are doing this and they're doing that. And, it's challenging, right? Because our egos are in this constant state of emerging and growing and shifting and changing. We're growing to forever, right? So it's never like a perfect, it's not a fix, but there is a place of peace that we come to inside when we really do trust ourselves enough. And we trust that what is here for us is really here for us because we are showing up to it. We are showing up to the download. We are showing up to the vision, and we're trusting that that vision is God-given, has been given to us for you to channel, and only you can channel it in the way that you're going to channel it.
Yes. We all felt that. Yes. Ooh, it's like you said earlier with the mystic heart and how important it is to receive the download and actually not procrastinate and have the courage to know you're supported and do it. Oh, it's so wonderful. And what you said about the other voice, that's really going to stick with me. It's just more interesting. It's just stay there, stay curious to these other possibilities, and then to that mother beyond mothers that you mentioned, of like that possibility of this divine feminine energy who always believes you're more than enough and wonderful.
The divine feminine energy, she's in the house. You just need to bring her in. Whatever face of the divine feminine you are connected to, from all of the faces of the divine feminine that have moved through all systems, and all nations, and she exists everywhere. You'll find her, the goddess energy, and in the earth, and she is here for you. She's here for it. Like that energy, the minute you just show up to her daily, she comes in. And that's a beautiful, the mother of all mothers, to hold this work, when you're moving into compassion, it is really a big ally. Like, that's when I'm doing my work with my clients, we bring her in and she's in the book, and because she's a fundamental part of being here now.
That presence. Ooh.
But also for what this time is about.
Being present to what's being asked of us.
What's being asked of us. And also that we know that we're in a toxic masculine world. We know that this is, we've happened upon, this is it's a white patriarchal manifestation. And the tech bros that are in charge of AI and, turning us into a massive data center, and, obviously with Elon Musk going into space with SpaceX, and he's now a trillionaire. But like, what's that all about?
Yeah.
Right. So, but this is it's like a hologram.
Ooh.
And we've created this thing with AI that finally is doing the thing that it's so in our shadow that we as humans believe about ourselves, that we're not enough, that we're not clever enough, that we're not this enough, we're not conscious enough, we're not
productive
enough. We've actually managed to create something that will finally say, no, you're not. Right? And that is also not only doing that, but is also then it's atrophying our brains as it, and we know that the data's in and it's doing that. So as artists, our art is the expression of art and how it moves through us. Music, poetry, writing, design, whatever all of it, food, wherever that your creativity moves through you, it's like you are setting alight what it means to be human, just in the small things. We create some food with love. We've all eaten food that's been made with love. That is like that humanity, like that connection. We feel that love. It changes our cells from the frequency of what's in it. And so with this real sort of psyops, because it's like I said, it's a hologram that's been created of us not being enough. And by 2030, AI is more intelligent than a billion times more intelligent than the most intelligent person on the planet. Our hearts are our superpower.
Yes.
This is where we have to go, right? Because not only will this keep us grounded in the face of all of this stuff, but it will also bring us into a new way of being with ourselves too, in the world, with each other. It is through the heart that will happen. So humanity, that's why I say humanity's next revolution is a revolution of the heart. Because this is, the brain, the mind is done.
Absolutely. I think we all felt just the truth and the power of that in this moment where you took us with the toxic white patriarchal colonial imagination and what that is resulting in all around us. And then this other possibility of listening to a voice of love, of compassion, of softness, of slowness. Just yesterday, I had that toxic productivity paradigm voice in my head. I'm like, I'm not doing enough, da-da-da. And like, I am not being consistent enough with the podcast, and it'll never grow unless I post every single Monday at 7 a.m. And and then my best friend actually helped me drop into like, you're an artist, you know, everything you receive is part of your artistry, and just being gentle with yourself. And that divine feminine can come through so many different voices around us if we are lucky enough to be surrounded by them. So that's so wonderful. And then what you said about this heart revolution, and something I love is a word that I guess created called heartists. And like, I feel like this heart-led artistry, that there is this creative possibility of creating heaven on earth for each other. You know, when I'm reading your book, I'm in heaven. Like that, what you said about the web and the network of the quantum field, that it's all here at once. It's like I'm in a moment of perfection. I'm in a moment of generosity, of grace, of love, of like beautiful imagery and quotes and stories from all your clients. And it's like, you created heaven for me, and we get to do that for each other when we listen to that mystic heart. Wow. I'd love to stay where you just took us around the moment we're in now and AI and what you're witnessing around you and this heart revolution that you just mentioned. What do you feel like is the most beautiful possibility we could step into right now?
Good question. The most beautiful possibility would be that what we are faced with, the weather, the wars, these huge data centers that are going to just drink all the water, that are just, you know, that are taking all of the water from us and the animals and the plants. You know, that Elon Musk said that water, or actually Jeff Bezos said that water cannot be, you know, it's not something as a commodity that where humans get the right to have it, that it's actually, AI should come first, because AI will have the answer for all of our problems. And if we are not feeding AI with the water, then AI will not come up with this answer. Okay. The answer is to, with the billions, is to plant more trees and clean the oceans and take care of people.
Take care of people and the earth.
Right. I mean, that's the answer. This isn't rocket science. Okay. And so we're up against this real sort of powerful darkness. You know, when we think about like, what is darkness? Okay. This is what it looks like. And that's what I mean about the idea of frequency, and that this is a frequency war. Because also what you'll find at this time is that it may be difficult to meditate, it may be difficult to feel yourself, it may be difficult to find peace. A lot of people can find it, that it's become harder over the past few months, this year, because of everything that's we're dealing with on so many different levels. Poisons in food, in words, in gestures, in intention. And so what that does is it really forces us to wake up. You know, we have to, right? If we're battling AI centers and we can't drink water, and the climate changes and it's so hot that we can't go, like, there has to be a waking up. And so the best possible outcome, and I do believe that, because I believe in the power of humanity, I believe in the power of good and the power of love. And love is the greatest, really the greatest power on the planet. And so the heart, for people to just stay, for, you know, whoever, whatever the background, whatever the religion, to open to the idea of heart and to stay curious, to be curious in this every day, that would be the most beautiful thing that could happen. Because if that happens, we will feel each other more, and we will have the power to change what is happening right now, because we'll come together. And ultimately, community, the idea that, the idea that we are one, it gets bandied around because we are and we aren't, right? But in terms of survival of the all of these ecologies and all of these different ways of being on the planet, we have to be together. So it is the Ubuntu, isn't it? And it is the you, me, we. We go back to these traditional teachings, the wisdom of the planet, of our ancestors, the people that were here and were here successfully. And this last 400 years, this industrial, and this sort of a kind of, it's become an industrial complex of colonialism and productivity and economy and the way that is the way that sits right now is just not, it absolutely doesn't work, and it is in a state of collapse. So even though they try and tell us that it's not in a state of collapse, everything is collapsing. But with us, our power is in our community. It is in the you, me, we. It's in just, when I remember there was a story about when there was an Irish potato famine, and in I don't know the date, but in the Victorian times there was this Irish potato famine, and the Native American people sent food to the Irish at that time, and they'd been through, obviously genocide and. But these people of the earth who understand the earth understand what it means. You, mean, we, and ultimately that's our guiding principle too. Is this, when we come into the heart, is that there isn't a separation. So we're able to, really work coherently from a place of love.
The power of that, the beauty of that, and the return to these wisdoms that we do have. These are indigenous forms of wisdom that still exist, that colonizers have tried to remove. Also, different feminine ways of knowing, or different ways of knowing that are channeled through the divine feminine in each of us, that we are taught to suppress, no matter our gender, and that we are taught to ignore and erase. And what you shared about Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, and what I just grieve and fills me with a sense of rage is that just that we all feel like such another kind of life is possible, such another kind of world is possible. And what you said about a frequency war, that's such an interesting way to put it, because that possibility still exists for each of us to co-create and claim, and also the Ubuntu of it. And I think there's so much wisdom in these different cultures that that the whole world can learn from. For example, in so many different African traditions and cultures, linguistically, you call each other my brother, my sister, mother, father. We are one in that sense. There's that understanding that all of our futures are linked, that it is, this understanding of togetherness, of family. And it's the wisdom, I think, is seeking to be, as so many of us are trying to do, honored and reclaimed. And so I think that's such an important point to return us there, that these Native American stories, these stories of indigenous peoples from across the world. And I think I think it could be, I don't know if it's the Maori people, but I think it's this concept of the 7 generations that actually exists in many indigenous cultures, around thinking about 7 generations ahead of you and seeing yourself as a future ancestor. So those were just some thoughts channeling through me as you spoke. This is such a gift to hear your vision for what is possible and for the role we each play in that possibility. For the clients that you work with, you mentioned the importance of community. How do we come together in community at a time, exactly like you said, where it feels like we're being most separated from peace, separated from that possibility?
communities are really our future, and finding a community is so important. Starting a community, right? Be the one.
Be the one
that starts the community. We don't have to wait for something to happen. Be the one. And because what you'll find is that you will find your people, and your people will find your people. Because they're there. Everyone, what I notice when I see my clients is this idea of loneliness and isolation. It is an epidemic. We have an epidemic of that. And we're not taught how to be in relationship. So when I teach the mystery school is that 3-year of teaching. It's a practitioner training course actually, but it's about how do we be in relationship? How do we be in this community with all of our pieces and all of our, how do we bridge? How do we have difficult conversations? How do we bridge conflict? What does conflict feel like? What does it look like? What does compassion look like? What does love look like? Our triggers. How do we hold all of this together to really deepen authentic community? To not be spiritually bypassing, which happens, that's something that can also happen. But communities really are the way forward. And at this time, we are better together.
We are better together. I just had an image as you were speaking about the importance of community and holding conflict, of people listening to this, watching this, in your next maybe tricky conversation, you're feeling a bit dysregulated, just saying, you know what, can we take some heart-led breaths together and just dropping in and then continuing to connect. I mean, imagine the world we would live in. Oh, wow.
I love that. I think that's a wonderful takeaway because it really brings you into a softening. When we come into the heart, we begin to soften. And that's why that middle part of the book is called The Softening, because you soften the edges. So many of us are exiles from our hearts and we are so terrified to be vulnerable. We're so terrified to be seen, really. So when we start to soften, then we recognize that our power is in our vulnerability. Being able to say, that really upset me because I feel like you don't love me when you say something like that, when you use that tone. And it really triggers my 8-year-old self who didn't feel like she was lovable because she was bullied at school. When we can start to have those conversations, where we're naming the parts of ourselves and we are coming from a frequency of love, then we bridge with grace.
That chapter on grace. When you did that, it made me feel like you didn't love me. That hit me in a different way. That is the raw truth, in such a way that I hadn't heard it expressed. That's so wonderful to hear you say this. Wow. Yeah. When we can stay connected to, also you write about seeing the inner child of your parents. And I think when we're doing this work, when we notice it within ourselves, we can see that there's always a little girl in you. There's always in our parents, in each of us, there's a child just who doesn't feel lovable and who is using the coping mechanisms available to them. So that's so wonderful. Wow, I'm just imagining what a world we'd live in if we all could learn conflict like that. Heart-led, staying connected, being vulnerable. We do have a lot of listeners who struggle with the fear of being seen. It's a topic that I speak about a lot and that you write about so beautifully, this fear of being exposed or being vulnerable. What would you say to someone who is navigating that fear of vulnerability, that fear of exposure right now?
Well, vulnerability is the big one, right? So, I see people who refuse to cry in front of anyone and their tears are a weakness and this is a weakness and that's a failing. And what will you do with this knowledge of me? That's the big question, right? What will you do with this? Will you weaponize this? Well, who will you tell? So the shame wound, the idea of what will happen when you're asked or invited to be vulnerable. And often, and I know this from my own experience, when I did the work on my own vulnerability in my 20s, it's like an abyss. it's like you're standing on the edge of an abyss and at the top of a mountain, and you're looking down, and someone's asking you to just literally jump off the top of that cliff, and you can't see the bottom, and there's nothing to catch you, and you're like, hell no, I'm not going to be doing that.
That's not going to be
That's
me.
not going to be. That is not. That has not got my name on it. But it's actually, the vulnerability is the power, and that's the thing about when we also meet this divine feminine energy, which you quite rightly said is in both male and female. It's in all of us. We all have a divine masculine. We all have a divine feminine energies. Those are the energies of the universe, the planet. But when we allow ourselves to be in this divine feminine energy of receiving vulnerability, softening, it's fierce. If I can say to you, I really don't like the way that you did that because it made me feel sad. And could you think about doing that in a different way? It makes me feel sad. I feel unloved. You've really shamed that feels really shaming. Even though you may not have meant it like that, but I feel really shamed by that. When we can put those things into words, that is how we can keep ourselves safe. That is how we hold ourselves safe in relationship. If I can speak my boundaries to you and they're vulnerable, right? Because you get to see who I am. So I'm exposing myself to you. But that means that I'm adulting and holding myself safe, which means I can love you more. Right? If I let you see me and you meet me, then I can love you more and you can love me more. And that's how it works. If we stay stuck in this little dark cave, in this little place where everything's safe and we're holding it all together and it's already safe, and we're not letting anyone too close, we're not going out into the world and being seen too much because we're fearful of what people are going to say or think or do and weaponize, and because we can't, everyone's not going to like us. Okay, that just is what it is, right? We just have to know ourselves. I'm sure there's a whole heap of people out there who'll be like, I didn't like what you said about Jeff Bezos. It's okay. Right? So, but it works on that in the world level and it works on that personal level. But the personal level is really how we nourish ourselves. How you nourish yourself around your family, around your friends, around your partners. That's really how we get our cups are really filled with that in a deep place, so we can go out into the world. Like you said, I felt really loved by my parents. I can feel their love, and that fills our cup, right? So, but when you can also feel really loved by a partner because you let that partner see into you and meet you, and you can lean in and you can weep if you need to weep and say, I just don't feel like I'm doing this right, or is this going to work, or I had such a bad day today, I don't feel like I'm enough. And that person can see you in that vulnerable place and meet you there as well, and you allow that. It's a superpower.
It's a superpower.
It is a superpower. The heart is a superpower, but your vulnerability, which is in this place, is part of that superpower, without a shadow of a doubt. But also we create from a place of fragility and vulnerability. We create from a place of emotionality. Often that's, the best art comes from when we are being most vulnerable because we're being most authentic, our authentic selves, but we're holding all of that. And that's the thing about when we go into the shadow and we really take shine a light in the dark corners of who we are. There's nothing about ourselves that frightens us. We're not frightened of our own shadow. There's nothing I'm afraid of. Meet me because I've met myself.
Meet me because I've met myself. It reminds me of the beautiful safe harbor image that you start the book off with that really touched me. Do you want to share that with us?
Yeah. The idea of building this safe harbor. And this is what you build, so that you can hold yourself safe. That's your anchor. You anchor through the heart. and not through the mind, because remember, like we know, the mind is a construct of the lifetime. So all of those stories, all of those voices, through the heart, which brings you into your true essence, into your soul energy. We anchor there, and that holds us in a safe place. We can, all the storms can come, because storms do come. Life delivers what life delivers. But we meet life in a different way.
We meet life in a different way. Oh, I feel like we all are ready to meet life with courage and vulnerability and the beauty of intimacy. I think in those moments where I have you, it's like this, almost like a fork in the road moment where I'm like, I can see the version of me who just pretends this didn't hurt me, or I don't feel triggered or whatever. And then the version of me who's courage. And it's almost like a 3, 2, 1 moment. And I'm like, and they are the most beautiful moments in a relationship, is those moments of vulnerability and stepping into that heart space. I just want to check where we are for time so I can make sure. Okay. Ooh, this is just so juicy and rich. It's like we're at a feast of your wisdom and of all that you have to share and offer, and the possibilities that can unlock through the heart. And I do want to make sure that we tap into, if someone's feeling resistant to going deeper into their heart, sort of what's in it for them, what can be manifested when we really do this work. And so I'd love to go there with you.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about knowing, right? And we talk about frequency. And Albert Einstein talks about, everything is made of energy. Match the frequency of the thing that you want, and it will come to you. It's as simple as that. And we know that, people talk about manifestation, like attracts like, the law of attraction, all of those things. So the knowing, and this is why when you're looking to manifest something, the knowing comes from this anchoring into your true essence. Because remember that that higher self, that guidance from that voice, that's the knowing, and that's alignment. So what happens is, if you imagine the unconscious and the conscious, so the unconscious is 5%. No, so the conscious is 5%, the unconscious is 95%. So the conscious mind is telling you, I want to manifest this, I want a new job, a new partner, I want a baby, I want a project, I want all of these things, that the conscious mind, but the unconscious mind is saying you don't deserve it. And the unconscious mind, 95%, really loud, right? So even if you imagine the room that you're sitting in, and you think about the 5% of the room is like a tiny little corner over there, the 95% is the rest of this space that we're occupying right now. This is the space, and this is the loudest energy in the room, right? This is the biggest energy in the room, which is why we go into the unconscious and we process, we unpick those patterns, and we change those stories. We process those stories so that the conscious and the unconscious are matching in frequency. So you've gone to the 4-year-old and you've worked with that story where she was told that she wasn't enough, or the 8-year-old who's bullied at school, or, the father that was violent, or the alcoholism, or the story, or whatever's happening in the lines, and it's cleared. And then everything is in alignment, and it's frequency. So what I'll say about the heart is the heart gets you there quickly.
Ooh.
Remember that the heart has an energy that you can feel 3 feet outside of the body. It's like 100 times more powerful than the electromagnetic frequency that is emitted by the brain. So when you walk into a room, it's your heart energy that people are feeling. That's your aura. Okay. And so why we get into the heart is because we're looking to get into alignment. We're looking to match our frequency. We're looking to do the work from this place because it works, and it works quickly. It is exponential. I can vouch for that.
Exponential.
Yeah, exponential.
Ooh.
Yeah. And because of the power, right? Because it brings you into yourself quickly. It brings you into your body quickly. Remember that we can't think ourselves into healing, and we can't think ourselves into the rest of our lives. We have to feel ourselves into the rest of our lives. And this is how we feel more, is through the heart. We embody through the heart. We embody our healing through the heart. All the things that we've learned in talking therapy, we may know intellectually, but we are not feeling in the body. And the heart brings that online. So you're in alignment. So then when you start to manifest from this place of alignment, 5%, 95%, and of course you're healing all the time, but when it becomes more 50-50, more 40-60 even, right? It's louder. It's more powerful. And I know from my own story of becoming a TV presenter and how I really went into big alignment with that. You know, it was at a time when no one that really looked like me, there was hardly anyone of colour at the BBC. You had to have gone to Oxford University, all of these things. But I was just literally, I just set my mind into a place of alignment because I understand that from the years of meditating that I've done and what the quantum field is and what energy is. Energy is, it has to match. So I really focused on this vision of working in the BBC and then working on TV in a very specific way. And I occupied that, I embodied that for 5-10 minutes a day, not thinking it, embodying it, feeling it, which is why so many people, you know, when they talk about manifestation now, they talk about really taste your future, smell your future. When you're in that vision of the future, so when I give people little exercises to do, it's not just thinking or I'm thinking of that. I'm actually feeling that. So feeling this podcast right now, like what does it feel like? What does the chair feel like? You're hot, you're cold, you're a little bit, but you know, what is it like to sit opposite me? What are the other thoughts that are coming? But actually just to feel the gratefulness of being here too. Right? Oh, this is nice. And when we spend 5-10 minutes in a sort of heart visualization manifestation, it's really powerful. You're bringing that superpower to your vision, the vision of your future.
Wow. So how would you walk someone through that so they connect through their heart with the whole senses of the vision?
Yeah. So do that breathing exercise just to breathe. That creates heart coherence immediately, just drops you into heart. All you need to do is think of your heart and the light, and it comes. But just to bring the breath into the heart consciously, it becomes conscious breath. And then from that place you can close the eyes and spend a few moments visualizing in with the heart online that vision for the future, what it feels like to be sitting next to the partner that you really want to bring in. Like feel that the body next to your body. You're sitting on the sofa. It's like you've been together for a while. It feels so good. You've opened your heart. You've finally met that person. Wow. And that exhalation in the body of like, oh, this is so nice. Really allowing those feelings in, those visceral feelings, and is how we align. It's how like attracts like, and we can work with the energies.
Wow. And so as we do that, we're also, because it's a feeling, is that how we're going also into the unconscious?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when we step into the shadow, many people talk about the shadow. It's been around for many years, but it's also indigenous. That's an indigenous understanding of the psyche. You know, the shadow is, we always have to know ourselves, right? And but basically what did you ask me? I was going to talk about the shadow.
Oh, I was asking, no, perfect, about feelings and the unconscious.
Yeah, exactly.
And so
feelings,
the shadow.
The shadow. So the shadow, the unconscious, why we go into the shadow is because we are rewiring the unconscious. We go into the shadow because that's where everything is held. The unconscious, the unconscious creates our thoughts, and our thoughts create our reality. But our unconscious is informed by the shadow. So all of the stories that you've held in your darkest places, the things that you don't want to admit about yourself, the things that really hurt you, that you haven't processed, the things that people have said to you, that you've buried, that you've repressed, that you've suppressed, all go into the shadow. And that's what's in the unconscious. So the unconscious is informed by the shadow, and the unconscious creates our thoughts, which creates our reality, which is why we want to clear the shadow, get our unconscious into a state of alignment, and that creates our reality.
Wow. Oh my word. Huh. Yes. Oh my goodness. You know, reading your book, the Shadowlands chapter, and doing this work with you, because in the book, there's so many really incredible, thoughtful journal prompts. And you have that voice of fear that's like, I don't want to do this now, but you just do it. And this moment, sometimes it can feel like, what does my podcast have to do with, you know, like my obviously everything has to do with childhood, but can you talk to us about things that seem unrelated, like someone is trying to manifest money, but then they're finding that it has to do with how they receive love, how all of these things connect? Because I had this really beautiful moment reading your book where I was thinking about this podcast and perfectionism and some of the blocks that I go through with being seen. And I was thinking about my childhood self and how like she only felt worthy of being celebrated when she was perfect and when she had really perfect news to share. I did so amazing in this test or that test, whatever. And I was like, wow, like I wasn't invited to be present with myself when I wasn't being perfect. And so I don't know how to relate to my imperfect self, which is myself. So it just makes me think of how all these different pieces of us are also interconnected. So how do you help people realize that they may think it's about money, but it's actually about how their father loved them, or like, you know, something completely
Absolutely.
unrelated?
It's all related. We learn how to be in the world, and we build our expectations from those early formative experiences. That's how we build what it is, our bar, like what it is we deserve or what it is that we don't deserve. Our expectations, how low they are. Okay. And abundance, the idea of things being successful, the idea of things flowing and being effortless. What does effortless manifestation look like? Well, look at how your parents have created. If you have seen that work has to be hard, or it has to be, you know, and that is in the line and it has to be hard, we do carry that. You know, we carry that into our futures. You know, we can only succeed if it looks like this. So we really want to unpick that. And also when it comes to perfectionism, you know, we are messy. We are perfectly imperfect. We are so messy, and life is messy. So that imperfect part of you has been shoved into your unconscious, has been shoved into your shadow. She's in your shadow. So that little part of you that felt real shame for maybe getting it wrong, or if the test result wasn't going to be good, or I didn't revise enough, what happens now? Well, it means that you aren't enough. It means that you're not lovable. It means that you don't feature, right? So when we're starting new projects, we may fail. And, you know, the art of failing is a massive part of being human, because that's how we build, that's how we grow, that's how we shape shift. We emerge through what we learn, and everything is a learning. But if we're doing we're walking this very tight path, it's like a tightrope, right? And we're on this little tightrope, and we've got to get it right, and each step has to be perfect. And what happens eventually is the body is in a state of tension. It's not in a state of flow. It's not actually engaging with the energy of the world. It's not playing with, you know, and changing, and wow, okay, that's changed color, so I think I will too, because that feels nice. Or that person said hello, I'm going to say hello. It's actually, no, I've got to stick to this very tiny little way of being in the world, and we become smaller.
Wow.
By default, we limit ourselves, because that is a constricting way that we are constricting. We are not expanding, because expanding has messy edges. If we expand into the unknown, right? We can't protect ourselves from the unknown. We have to invite the unknown to meet us. We are going to meet the unknown. That is what it means to be on an adventure. So that anchoring into the heart, the anchoring, that's the thing that can hold us safe when we go on those, into that new ocean. We go on that new adventure and that new journey. But it's really important to recognize that ultimately these parts keep us imprisoned. And even if you feel into them energetically, you can feel that, right? You feel into perfectionism. If you feel into the energy, I call them like slipstreams, feel into the energy of perfectionism. Perfectionism makes us want to, change our body language. What do I say next? What happens? Am I allowed to do this? But when we feel into the energy of expansion, we exhale. But we also have to then let go. And so all of that control, all of the control, keeping ourselves safe, white knuckling, all of that, and spending that time in that little cave where we peek out and we look and we say, oh, and we get envious about her doing that. And I can't go over there because there's no one that looks like me over there, but and over there, there's too many people that look like me. All of these ideas that we have, we get in our cave and the cave is safe, but we've got this little opening. We're just getting nowhere, right? That isn't an adventure. That isn't a journey. We're stuck. And so I see so many people who are stuck. They write me the emails, they sit in front of me. I'm stuck. And that is stuck energy. What is inviting you out of that little cave, that playing small like that? What is inviting you out of that place? And I'd say, if you do have a sort of spiritual leaning, let it be the voice of God, your higher self. Let it be that adventure that's calling you forward. Let your soul speak to you and get you out of there.
You just spoke directly to me. Like you emerged from your dimension of reality, and that was exactly what my soul, I know, came here to everything you shared, but what you just said about the tightrope and the cave, and I feel like we all felt that in like our bones. That was so powerful. I also just adore the way that these metaphors come to you, or you've worked with this wisdom so much that you're able to explain it in a way that is so visceral, because we feel these images and they're these archetypes that go somewhere else. And I just felt that so carefully. And when you said, if there's anything that allows you to come out of that cave, let it be the voice of God, let it be your soul speaking to you, your higher self. It's just so gorgeous. And then also the divine feminine also comes to me as an energy of desire and really leaning into that wanting as a way of coming out of the cave, because part of you really wants to. Wow, that really, I almost started crying. That was so beautiful. And I held myself safe, and I knew it was safe to cry. It was also safe not to cry. So I appreciate you so, so, so much. Before we go to our closing ritual, there is a beautiful invitation in your book where you speak about the system of family constellations. And I didn't know that was based on Zulu shamanism. So I'd just love to hear more about that, and also what you would say about sort of how we can decolonize or re-indigenize. We've been speaking about this whole time, but I'm curious if you have anything come through for you on that.
Yeah, I wanted to write about that in my book because people don't know.
I did not know.
And family constellations has taken over the world, right? It's taken over the Western world. People talk about family constellations. I'm always reminding people or telling people or informing people where it came from. Yes, it's a Zulu shamanic practice. Yeah. It was taken by a psychotherapist who he went and studied. He went in South Africa and took it back to the West and wrote it up and, coined and basically that became something that has been colonized. And the power of family constellations is the interdimensionality of it, which is, and I work with that system when I'm teaching, because people don't understand how it works, but it works because people say, well, there's an energy that comes over me and I'm not quite sure, suddenly I'm the great uncle of this person in this family constellation workshop and I've never met this person, or the energy of someone who's passed away comes over me. We can do all of this work in this way, but it comes from South Africa, and I think it's so important to decolonize these really important practices and honor these practices, and have the people who really channeled them be recognized and known. It's so important because otherwise we end up in this, and it happens. It's happening across the board, really. But these appropriated systems, and that is an appropriated system.
Yes.
So it's really important that knowledge is out there. That this German psychotherapist, it's German. He went and spent time and then took that back.
Wow.
And then and coined it. It's family constellations, and he then it's sort of now in the mainstream, but in the mainstream as a white modality, psychotherapeutic modality, and it's not.
Wow! Oh my goodness!
And you think about I suppose all of the incredible medicine people that would have worked with that modality, but also that is a tradition of that land, and to not honor it is how we get into it's why we're up against. It's why we're looking into the world that we're looking into.
Yes. Wow.
Because that's why we're now on the brink of so many different collapses. That dishonoring, it kind of says it all, really.
For anyone who isn't familiar with what that Zulu shamanic practice then is, then this person, like that family constellation systems, what is it, so that they can know that, oh, that's actually rooted in Zulu shamanism?
Yeah. So what it is you get a group of people together and you ask the person who's, the person who's got an issue, or there's a trauma, or there's something happening, there's something they need to work on. That person chooses people from the group, or the whole group may work together. If you're working in a group setting like that, it wasn't specific. I mean, in Western, how they've done it in Western, you can have a group of 20, and it wasn't necessarily like that in Zulu tradition. But the medicine person would work with a few people from the tribe and work with the people who had an issue. But now people bring in all sorts of, there are 20 people in a room. But what happens is there's a person is holding an issue or a trauma or a story or something that they need wisdom or healing on. And the other people in the room become the people, hold the energy of the issue. So if there's a family issue, you may be my grandmother. And someone else could be my father. And someone else could be my great-grandmother. And what happens is the person feels the energy of that person come into them and literally into the body. And you can do the work of healing with these three people in the room that have nothing to do with any of these people on the other side of the world. And the person is actually channeling that person's energy. So that person, you will say, your grandmother really feels like this. But actually when she gave you away, when you were 2 years old, she was so frightened. You may have been holding something for forever about being adopted or being sent away. And you can get the grandmother who's passed away into the room and speak to her or resolve something or feel something. Understand more about what was happening for her.
Wow.
So it's a really powerful interdimensional space that also goes against the grain of Western thought, because it's not about the mind. It's very in the body, and it's about magic. It's very magical. It's very interdimensional. It's very magical. It's very earth-led and heart-led. So it's spirit-led. It's not about thinking. So it's really interesting. But again, when we think about these practices and even dancing, how dancing or somatic healing is felt, we're feeling our bodies. But again, it's something in indigenous places
across the
and
world.
spaces. That's what we've been doing forever. And so, again, this kind of repackaging of what that looks like or means, or, whether we have to really be mindful. It's happening with plant medicines now. Again, what does that mean for the people, and the land? If everything is repackaged and, has a label on it that's westernized and colonized.
Yes. And that paradigm of colonialism, of coloniality, like in our minds, we see it as, in our linear mind, has ended, but it is literally alive and well in everywhere. Even AI, there's this incredible talk that I watched where if you just trace how the labor flows, it's all extremely colonial. Who gets the credit for what AI is, and then who's actually doing the hard labor that's creating, all this underpaid, very inconsistent, and what is the word? Like insecure and unstable labor that's often done in Kenya, in Uganda, and different parts of Africa. Then the elements extracted from the earth, the conditions of that labor, and then the CEOs in Silicon Valley. And it's all here. Just feels like our mindsets have been warped to believe it's like a thing of the past, but it's present in every single part of our lives. So thank you for taking us there and reminding us that all these forms of healing are indigenous first, and how can we honor that? We see this with plant medicine. We see this with this work you've shared, obviously, with yoga and Ayurveda and all that, the Indian wisdom that has been completely colonized. That has been deeply colonized in so many ways. So thank you for taking us there. We are at our closing now. It has been such a gift to have you, and I could just ask you 1,000 more things. It's been such an honor to listen to your wisdom and hold space. And I think there are so many threads that people can just go along and dance with after this conversation. I'd love to close with just a quick rapid fire 1 to 2 sentences from you, and then we will wrap and wrap. So my first question is, a song that changed me is?
Heaven Is. That's a song written by my cousin Andrew Rochford, who, music is a massive part of my life. My father was a jazz saxophonist. He came over sort of on the Windrush generation from Barbados. And he came over, he couldn't even afford to pay for his saxophone. He made it all the way, to France, and then over from to Dover, and then to London, knowing no one at 17, and played jazz. He actually taught Fela Kuti. Yeah, he was an amazing and played jazz. But my family are a musical family, and music obviously runs through as a healing. It's so healing. And my cousin Andrew, he taught Andrew, but also Andrew then became an artist.
Wow.
And I was living with him at a certain point years ago, and he wrote this song Heaven Is, which is so beautiful. And it was at such a moment in time. I had a music show actually on the World Service, the BBC World Service. So I love music. I love 90s soul. I love Lauryn Hill, rap. I love jazz. I love all sorts of music. I love folk. I love everything. But this is a beautiful, beautiful tune. So, and it's about where your heaven is where you find your heaven. And we talk about that heaven on earth. And the line sort of, my heaven is, being here with you. So it's beautiful.
Wow. Oh, heaven is. We're all going to link to it below. Oh my word, I'm so excited to listen and hearing your history with music and the healing power of music and your father and Fela Kuti. Oh my goodness, that's amazing. That's amazing. Wow, heaven is. Wonderful. And then a book I recommend to everyone is?
Well, actually, this is a book from many, many years ago that it's a book that I always love, and it's The Famished Road by Ben Ockrey. I read that at university, and I love that because it was a book about magic, sort of magical realism and what it means to see things, and it's a book about how Christianity came to Africa and what it did to the indigenous wisdom and sort of disrupted the African natural relationship with the earth and with spirit. And I've always loved that. So I actually recommend that. It's on my forever list.
Wow. The Famished Road. Oh my goodness. Wow. I'm going to read that book. That sounds amazing. We will link to all of these below. The third is a person I carry with me in everything I do.
Is my mother. Absolutely. My mother, who is the purveyor of all lessons in the lifetime and much wisdom, much pain, much love, all of the things. And really I would say I wouldn't have chosen anyone else. I mean, we do choose our parents. I carry her fierceness with me, and there's a part of her where she has such a commitment to truth and really to love, and so and she put me on the path really to find the mother of all mothers. I needed to, and I wouldn't have done that without her.
Wow. The wildest manifestation story I've seen.
The wildest manifestation stories that I've seen would probably be, I always talk about Charlotte Tilbury. Yeah, you wanted to talk about that.
I was hoping you would mention it.
Yeah. And Charlotte Tilbury, I remember she came to see me. Well, she's a friend of mine. But she came to see me, and I did a reading for her, and I said to her in that reading, you will be the next Estée Lauder.
Wow.
It was there. I could feel it. It was the download.
Wow. And what was she doing at the time?
She was a waitress at the time. She just finished her makeup course. She was a waitress. She was living in like a bedsit in Ladbroke Grove. And I was like, this is going to happen.
Wow.
And she said, I know.
Oh my goodness.
And she said, I know, with such clarity and such alignment. And it was in that moment that I realized that I'd need to take my work and deepen my work I'd have to go into the unconscious in order to help people rewire. Because most people, when I get something downloaded for them, I say, you could do this. This is in your future. I can feel this. I can feel that. Most people, by the time they've got out of the door, or, they'd be like, she doesn't really know what she's talking about. Oh, I don't really know about that. Oh, I need to eat my sandwich for lunch. Oh, that's not going to happen. That's never going to happen. And I realized at that moment, I thought, wow, okay, this is what the story is. Because most people, 99% of people, when it's nothing is in sight, believe like that. Or can hold that belief for long enough. Because remember, we were talking about
that
the 95% and the 5%. It doesn't even matter if it's 50-50. It doesn't matter if you spend just 10 minutes a day just in utter complete alignment, just all the noise, pushing that to one side, in complete alignment, right here, right now, feeling it, tasting it, doing it, being it. Yes, that's going to happen. It's already done. And so it is. It's done. It is. It's on its way. So even 50-50, that changes your frequency.
Wow.
Okay. And she just held the frequency.
Whoa.
Which is why then she created a business in 8 years. It was, it's $1 billion business in 8 years.
Wow.
So she kind of went from that to becoming the highest paid makeup artist in the world, and then started her own brand. But with that knowing.
Oh my word. Oh, I have chills hearing you say that her conviction and alignment actually taught you that you needed to help people achieve what you saw embodied in her. and work on that unconscious and fully align and be that 95%, then also the clarity of like this 10-minute practice per day, being in that energy, feeling it, seeing it. I'm excited. I'm going to be doing that each day. I do that, but I'm going to do it with more sort of like awareness that that's what I'm doing. So thank you so much. If there's one thing you take from this conversation, I hope it is
to stay curious and open your heart.
Stay curious and open your heart. And finally, if my inner child walked through that door, I would say to her,
mine?
Yours, yes. If your inner child walked through that door.
Every time I think about my inner child, it brings me to tears. I love my inner child. She's so sweet. I'm really proud of her.
We see her. We're so proud of her. Wow. All the versions of you, I got an image of all the ages of you, like all here with us. And we're so grateful. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your heart and being in your heart. Thank you for your sacred tears and for giving us so much wisdom to sit with and to reflect on, and for being brave, speaking this wisdom into the world, even at times when people were not ready to hear it, and doing your work, answering the calling, not just having the idea for the book, but sitting with it. And I know these are multi-year manifestations. So thank you for the way that you are in the world and the heart revolution you're guiding us to and through. And I just truly hope to have you back, always invited to the Soul Salon. And where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram, Estelle.Bingham, or estellebingham.com.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Estelle.
Thank you so much. So gorgeous to be here. So wonderful. I've loved it.
Oh my goodness.
With all of my heart.
Thank you. My darling, my love, my soul sibling, thank you for stepping into the Soul Salon. If you are still hearing or watching this, we are soul siblings. We are resonating on the same frequency. And so something you may struggle with, that I struggle with, is the fear of being seen. You know that visibility is involved in you living your creative purpose and being in your power, serving the collective through your gifts, through your magic, through your medicine. In order to do that, you know you need to be more seen than you are allowing yourself to be right now. I have a gift just for you, heart-made for us on this frequency, and it is a free ebook called The Soulful Visibility Guide. That is soulful visibility. Like, we don't just want to be seen, we want to be felt, we want to be heard, we want to move and be moved. So I do have a free gift for you, and all you need to do is go to my website, ayandastood.com, and there you will be able to input your email address and receive this directly to your inbox. This is such a juicy and delicious guide, and I change the free offering every few months, so get it while you can. All the links are in the show notes. So thank you so much. I love you, and I will see you on the next soul session. Okay, I love you. Bye.